Hey, welcome back to the podcast. Great to have you back here on the How to Podcast series. My friend and cohort from Las Vegas is here. Viva Las Vegas! April is with me from Talking Travel with April podcast, which is amazing, by the way. And if you love photography, you need to meet April. She's on the podcast today. We're going to be talking about what she learned at Podfest Global. Pretty interesting stuff. We're going to talk about ChatGPT and Swell AI and other AI tools for podcasters. And, like turning your podcast into a book and how to think like a listener. Some really interesting stuff today, and I'm always happy to have April back on the podcast. So join me in welcoming April to the podcast. Here we go. How to Podcast series, bringing on fellow podcasters to talk podcasting to support you in starting your show. Reach out to April, let her know you heard her on the show. And here we go. Okay, everyone. One of my favorite people from the beautiful city of Las Vegas. Yeah, Viva Las Vegas and such. April's back, and I'm happy. And for all those who listen and go,
I'm back.
We need more April. Here you go. Another serving of April. April, welcome back to the How to Podcast series. My co-host. Good to have you back.
Hey,
Again,
Dave,
I tell you,
how's it going?
I'm happy that you're here because I get to talk to somebody that I really admire who's doing a lot right now. I see you everywhere. Oh my gosh. Every corner I go down on the internet, every time I turn a corner or go on a page, there's April. You're responding to people, you're helping people, you're looking for guests, you're promoting your guests.
Wow.
I love it.
Yeah, it's just so much fun to talk to people and hear stories. And I know we've talked in the past about, niching and all of that. But I think before you get too concerned about niching, just to have fun, just keep doing it, enjoy the conversations. And I wanted to open the conversation about talking about AI today. I mean, it's everywhere too. It's just everywhere. There's all these new tools that can help you do a lot of things. I mean, there's people that are, if they're shy about speaking, you can actually create a podcast that talks like you. I mean, I haven't gone down that rabbit hole, not my thing, but just for generating ideas, or if you're having trouble writing that description after you've recorded the episode, you can give, there's Open Chat GPT? It's free. There's a free version. I've signed up for the free version, and I have had no trouble getting on. I know some people have told me that they're paying for the plus so that they always have access, but I use that actually to help me generate questions, because once I snag a guest, I will type in things like, you want to be specific with to get the best results back from the OpenAI, I'll say pretend you are an interview for X, like a travel magazine, and I'm interviewing, and I'll literally paste in their LinkedIn profile or their Facebook profile, and then ask it to generate 20 questions. I ask it to generate more questions than I'm going to use, and just see what it spits back. And sometimes you'll like the question. Sometimes it'll open an idea that, oh, I didn't really think about asking them X. And try to be more specific. Maybe the reason you asked this guest on was to talk about solo travel, or in my case, camping with a family, or camping with a family in California. Add in those details to the chat questioning, and it'll spit back a great selection of questions and maybe things you didn't think to ask. And that can save you just a world of time of, sometimes we get stuck just on the what questions to ask. Now I've got an outline, and it helps you if you're a little challenged with writing the questions to get the conversation going and get them. And you can even say things like, write in a casual tone, or my audience is, tell it, give it a role. So give the chat AI the role. What is their job? Are they a professional copywriter? Are they an interviewer? Are they Barbara Walter, whatever it is to help you. And then, so give it a role, give it a goal, what you want to get out of it, and give it parameters. I mean, tell it, my audience is 30-somethings that like country music. And
your ideal listener, right?
Some of those additional tidbits. Right, your ideal listener. Put in your avatar. It's been very helpful. And it saves me a ton of time. Just keep your Word document open and just literally cut and paste. Now
Yeah.
you've got an outline of questions.
So and some people are like, okay, well, this all sounds great, April, but I'm not techie at all. And just before we go down that path, there used to be a day when you'd have to go to the public library to do any research, right? You'd have to get a book off a shelf and open it and read it. That was where we came from not so long ago. And then this thing called Google came out, and everyone's like, ew, that's not, I don't like it. That's different and new. I like books that smell really musty and old. That's what I like. And I'm like, so everyone's kind of moved to Google is now normal. And now with all these AI tools, that's becoming more normal, right? So it's a progression. Right. We're all learning together. And if it scares you, that's okay. Take your time, ask questions. You can go on YouTube University and you can learn anything you want. And somebody will hold your hand and walk you through step by step on how to do this. And just try it. So my wife, April, my wife's name is Jennifer. She's not a big techie person. Like she'll use her phone or a basics on a computer, and she just doesn't have any interest. Like, meh, I'd rather go do something outside. I'm like, that's great. I love it. That's her. That's the way she is. So I had her come down and I brought ChatGPT up and I went, okay, just to show you what this looks like. I typed in something and it starts talking back to you. And it's really kind of weird. Yeah. It's like, is there someone? It is. There's someone behind my monitor? Like, that is so weird. So I said, okay, watch this. Give me a pet, a kind of pet that people would have. She's like, hamster. Okay, hamster. And give me a location. She's like, the moon. I'm okay, the moon. I'm like, okay, ChatGPT, create a poem about hamsters that live on a moon for children. I typed it all in. I hit post, and here it comes. There it is, right on the screen, like in a second. And it rhymed. It had story, it had arc. It was funny. And I'm like, right. And then I'm like, okay. And my wife's like, that is insane. I'm like, well, just wait. I'm like, now turn this into a country song. And I hit the button and it turned it into a country song and gave me all the lyrics, the chorus, the bridge, everything. And I'm like, oh, and now I have a song about hamsters that live on the moon in country. Right. And I'm just like, and she looked at me like she just kind of backed away from the computer. Like, this is freaking me out. So it is really fun to play with. I love your ideas, though, April. This is really good that you can put your avatar in there. Yeah. And you can talk to ChatGPT like it's a person. And the one thing, going back to Google, I remember the first time, and it sounds weird to say this, I Googled myself. I don't know, that sounds weird, but I Googled myself and it came up and it knew about me. And I'm like, because there's a lot of Dave Campbells in the world. We kind of give that name away like candy. But then I went on ChatGPT and I chat GPT'd myself. I don't know if that's a thing. And it came back to me and told me who I was, who my wife was, the name of our business. Oh. It said that we lived in a different part of Canada, and that we had a herb garden. We don't have a herb garden, and we don't live in that part of Canada. So what I did is I said, ChatGPT, thanks, but we don't live here. We live here, and we've never had a herb garden. ChatGPT comes back to like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'll update our records. Thank you for letting me know. But everything else was correct. Right. And I'm like, that freaked me out because it knew who I was. Yeah. And I'm like, I was having a moment just sitting here looking at my screen like, the world is different, April. The world is different. Yes. Right. Right. Well, for those that are a little concerned, I mean, I've considered, I often like keep one foot, as we've talked about, and kind of like the books, papers, things I can touch. I'm the same way. I have tons of books, tons of magazines, but using it like a research tool, like you said, I mean, I'm the same way. I used to have to go to the library, and then we had Google, and you could Google asking, make you up questions. But this ChatGPT, to tell it like, oh, my ideal listener is X, and pretend you're, write in this tone, write in a professional tone or a casual tone. It blew me away. And there are, gives me extra material, because there are days where like, I got this interview and I'm not sure if I'm going to ask it different. You get stuck in a rut. So using it for those things, I think, is really
time saving, huge time saving. And then after your episode, plug in the information or some notes, maybe feed it some of your answers, and it can help you create the description, which again, if you're not hip to writing, it can help you plug in keywords, like make sure it's got some keywords. I always think that you should still look at what it spits out and make adjustments. So it's in your voice. You've had your eyes on it. Take out some sentences, because it does sometimes repeat sentences. I did it this morning. I'm like, it said that same sentence now in 3 different ways, like, let's not go overboard, trim it up. But I'm finding it saving a lot of time, and it's continuing to give me the time to enjoy the best part, which to me, the best part is having the conversations and meeting the new people. And
so I did an episode of the How to Podcast series, and what I did was I went to ChatGPT and I typed in, why is it important, or something along the line of how to build community with fellow podcasters and why it's important. Okay.
oh,
So it gave me like
yeah.
5 or 6 points or something like that. And then what I did was I went to another site that does text to speech to help people who want to listen, but they can't read or whatever reason. And I took the script and I put it in there, and I had a computer voice, an AI voice, read it back to me, and I could pick dialect, country, everything. So I had like a British person come on and read it back to me with their British accent. And it was like, and they read my script back to me, and I took that and I made it my episode. So I said right at the beginning of the episode, okay, everybody, hi, this is Dave, the real Dave talking, not somebody else, not an AI voice. This is me. But this is what I did. I did ChatGPT. I got a voice to read it for me. And basically, I've done nothing in this episode. Just so you know, I want to be completely honest. I did zero work except type in a question. And ChatGPT gave me the content. The voice did the voiceover, and I posted it up. And I'm like, it felt really odd because I did nothing except to the editing.
Oh no.
So, but it was really funny because I felt like that is such a unique way of doing it. So one thing I heard somebody say, and I really like this, April, they said, use ChatGPT, use AI as an assistant, but not as your employee.
Right. Ooh,
so don't
that.
Give your content to AI to create while you go watch Netflix, but use it as an assistant to help you. And that's what you're doing. And that's what I love. I love that you qualify that you still do the work, but when you get stuck or you need questions or you want to develop your avatar, there's so many things you can use with this. So if you're nervous about any kind of AI, listen to April. It's not that hard. It's easy to get into, and leverage the tools and learn them. And if it doesn't work for you, okay, you tried it. You tried it.
Right. You tried it. Exactly. And be careful. Honestly, just make sure that, because some sites, they try to rope you into that. Oh, you get 30 days free. And, I fell into that trap with something at the end of last year and forgot, I'm like, oh, cool. I got excited. If you forget, the 30 days goes by and it's charging you again. So look for things that are free. Like this version of Chat OpenAI is free. Just use the free one. And I'm not super good at like writing code or, computer type stuff, but this is super easy. Like I said, make yourself the little formula of, what to tell it to get you back what you want on results. Like I said, like as an assistant.
And it learns you while you're talking to it. So it starts to come back more in your voice as far as how you would type or how you would speak or how you would ask a question, because it starts to learn you as you sign into this account. So it's interesting. There's another one that I've been using recently. I'm on their free trial right now. It's called swell.ai, SWELL.ai. And what it does is it takes your MP3, your final copy of your podcast. You can upload it to swell.ai. It will give you a complete transcript of your entire episode. It will also then give you an article about your episode, like you'd see in a magazine. So it formats it, beginning, middle, end, summary, all that. It gives you this whole article, which you can use on your website as a blog post, as promotion. It gives you a a podcast summary of the episode. So like 3 or 4 sentences about the show, sample
Right.
titles for your episode based on the
Oh,
topic of what was
nice.
discussed. It identifies
That's
speakers. So April's talking, Dave's talking. April's talking, Dave's talking.
oh, nice.
Timestamps. So if you want to jump to later in our discussion, you want to hear Morris talk more about more something later, you can just skip to those spots. And
Ooh, I
yeah,
like
so
this.
swell.ai.
Swell. I'll have to check this one out.
There's a free version for that. You can only do like a limited amount of uploads a month, but it's free. So you can try it at least. I like that.
Right.
It
And I like the idea of the transcript because then you could go through and pick out, maybe your guest said, sometimes your guest will say some little gem and you want to take that little piece and make another piece of content. It's all about right now, take a little piece of content, make a quick Instagram post or make a little Facebook post, and then you can link your episode and hook in people without a lot of, it's all about time management. How much time do you want to spend on each of these things? But with the transcript that you just mentioned, you could easily see like, oh, that was a line I want to use. I'm going to make a little graphic, put it up there.
And the transcript as well. I know there's some debate in podcast space about whether transcripts are in air quotes worth the time and expense. But for those that are participating in your podcast who can't hear you but want the content, if you don't provide that to them, you are alienating a piece of your audience, a very important part of your audience that would not be able to participate. So there's a reason why sidewalks are cut the way they are, where they meet the road, so that wheelchairs can get up. At the same time, a mother pushing a stroller can also benefit from a sidewalk that's cut to the street level. Same thing for podcasting. If we do this,
and the same thing for the same thing for videos. If you have the transcript, the words going across the bottom, I can't tell you too how many times you might be in a place where you don't want your podcast, whatever you're listening to or watching, blaring out. But if they've got the words streaming across the page, you can follow along and learn and get some tips that way.
Yeah, like if your boss is having a really boring meeting and you're watching us right now. Be nice to be able to read what April's saying, right? Yeah, I love it.
Great.
Okay, so ChatGPT is great. Really encourage people to go try it. There is a free version. Again, there's bells and whistles. If you move up, always there's bells and whistles. Swell.ai is another one. There's another one. I don't know if you know this, but in Canva has included a ChatGPT version in Canva.
Oh, they have now.
Yeah, so you can use that with your Canva subscription or with the free plan. And you can actually do the same type of stuff. I'm playing with it. The same types of stuff you can do with ChatGPT, but based in Canva. They have their own version of it.
Wow.
So that's interesting.
Wow, that's interesting because I like Canva for creating. That's what I've been using to create all my little graphics. They get great little template. And I asked my guests because I also do a Zoom recording of the conversation so I can quickly make a YouTube video. But adding those graphics is really nice, just to get a couple pictures from your guest and use their photos, put some graphics on it. And you don't have to be, getting into Photoshop. You don't have to be super. Canva's awesome.
Yeah, and they do, again, have a free plan. There's not as many, again, bells and whistles, and you can unlock more potential in a paid version of it. I started with a free plan, and I was able to do lots of great stuff in that. But again, then I moved up. I'm like, I love this so much. I'm just going to move up and go to that. You mentioned a word that right now podcasters are really excited about, and that was the word YouTube. Are you all set up on YouTube with your podcast? They have podcasts now on YouTube.
I have the podcast on YouTube. So I record in Zoom. It gives me back the 2 files. I put one file over on the YouTube channel. And I add in some graphics, which that's what I was playing with this morning. There was just finding an editing program, so it's easier to drop in some photos, so it's not just watching 2 talking heads talk. And finding a program that'll just make those quick shorts, because YouTube Shorts is like taking off. They're just really pushing those shorts right now, and those shorts are driving traffic to my longer content. That's what's getting people to go listen, go watch longer. But yeah, those shorts.
So when you're uploading to YouTube, you have a playlist for your podcast then, right?
Right.
So now you've converted that playlist to an actual podcast, right? You know how to do that.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, because some people haven't done that yet, and I would encourage you to do so. Because when YouTube tries something new, you want to jump on the bus, because they are going to promote you for participating in a new feature they've added. So don't wait till next year to kind of get around to it. If you have a playlist, all you have to do is change it from a playlist identification to a podcast.
Yes.
And then you will be found on the podcast tab of YouTube. Even if you're not sure if it's going to work for you, at least do that if you have a playlist of your shows. Whether they're a static image, which is just a still picture with the audio attached,
right,
or the actual video like you're seeing here. Whatever it is, that's fine, but do something. Just jump on the bus and be a part of it, because the search feature in YouTube is crazy.
Oh, it's crazy. Right.
So,
and YouTube's really trying to compete with all those other platforms like the TikToks and the Reels and all those other things. So yeah, I like YouTube a lot actually, because I'm not on TikTok, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
It's like too many things to do. I'm just trying to keep it simple.
I love it. Okay, so I have a win for you, April. I haven't mentioned this to you yet. I had a gentleman reach out to me through my SpeakPipe on my website, so that I got a voice message. And he's in England. And he was, he had some downtime, and he was on his phone he's got a new business he's trying to start. He wants to help people and share a message with the world. And he said, I need help. I need to know how to start a podcast. So guess what he typed into Google? How to podcast. And guess what came up?
Your podcast came up. That is a win. That's a huge win.
Right? Because it's in the name,
yes.
right? It's right in the name.
Right.
So how do you avoid
it's right
that,
in the name.
So obviously simple. But he came, he fell in love with the show, which made me so happy that someone in England would love my show. That is so. And then he's like, "Can I have time with you?" And I'm like, "Sure." So we jumped on the phone on a Zoom call, and he's looking at me. He's like, "It's you." So I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Welcome to the How to Podcast series. My name is Dave." He's like, "It's actually you. That's the voice. You're the guy you're the guy." And I'm like, "This is so much fun to do that."
Oh, that is
right.
That is so much fun.
We're working together, and he's going to start a podcast to help many people. And I'm just offering some time in my calendar to talk and answer questions. And so he asked a bunch, and then he's going to go work on it. He's going to come back again. It's exciting.
That is a win. That's exciting.
Right. And then I have one more just to share. I actually had one of my friends who has a business. He said, "Dave, I'm ready to do it. I want to start a podcast. I want to hire you to do all the stuff. I'm going to record and give you the files, and you take care of it." And I'm like,
wow.
That's the first time that's ever happened for me. And that's kind of where I'm working towards with my 7 different shows, is I'd like to offer that to people and help people.
Yeah, exactly.
And I got off that call and went to my wife, and I'm like, "Hey, Jen, guess what?" And got my first client. And she's like, "Shut up." Right. That's amazing. So that's a regular podcast every week, regular income coming in for me.
Right.
Which means I can eventually leave a night job and go down the path of helping people with their podcast. So,
right. And one client's going to lead to another client, which, and that's what it's about.
I just haven't been able to tell anybody. So I got to wait and talk to you first. So
I'm excited.
April. So there you go.
That's exciting.
I wanted to share that with you. So what kind of big wins do you got going on for you right now? What's making you happy?
I think just continuing to learn and continuing to take the content, and like we mentioned, yes, I'm feeding the podcast channel, but the fact that I'm taking it and putting it on YouTube to see a new subscriber, usually about every other day, a new subscriber. And the way I've been doing that is to create just little shorts. I literally just get on with my cell phone and sometimes just find something on the internet that's related to travel, whether it's a travel story, and I share hey, I found this website and they're talking about 5 great things to take on your next long flight. Do a quick 1 minute. That's all they want. Upload it from my phone. People can see me, they can hear me, and then go back and tag in my podcast, tag in my YouTube channel. And again, it's just one person after the other. So that feels like a win.
I love it.
So that's exciting. And just again, meeting more travelers, that are interested, that maybe that will turn into a client who wants me to help plan their trip to New England, or maybe they want to go photograph in the mountains, whatever. So
there you go, everyone.
Those are slow wins.
Yeah, everyone listening, you just heard April say, my clients. If you want to work with April, where do they go? Where's the website?
They
what do we
go
do?
to, my website is yourphototravelguide.com. And kind of like you, I'd love to help other photographers that maybe don't have the time to do a podcast, just to get, they're so knowledgeable. I always admire other photographers and travelers that have experiences that, I may never get to go to Morocco or get to go to the Azores or Antarctica. So if I can help them get their voice out there, love to do that. So
I love it. So there you go, a little plug we just did there. That was like a commercial that's kind of baked in.
Yes,
for you,
stuck
April.
in the
There you
middle.
go. Okay, another big topic. You went to Podfest Global. I wasn't able to go because I was busy working. But you went and you got to go sit in on some amazing sessions. So,
oh my gosh, they had all kinds of sessions. It was, yes, and it was a full week, and it was free. Again, just meet other podcasters, because other podcasters had free tickets. You didn't physically have to go anywhere other than your desk, turn it on your computer, join by Zoom. They had multiple sessions giving all kinds of information. Like some of the things, and I was busy every day trying to plug in to see what I could learn, who I could meet. Like one of the sessions I enjoyed the most was a gentleman who said, keep doing your podcast, and all that content, if you're using a niche, you could later turn it into a book. And again, think about now this stuff with AI. You build those scripts, you start helping it as an assistant, kind of like the old days when people would literally take a tape recorder, you'd interview, maybe your grandfather that served in World War II, and he'd talk, and somebody then would have to transcribe that, which that was hard, sitting there and listen, type it out, listen. So this is completely different. Like you said, you can take your file, your audio file, create the transcript in that tool you just mentioned, and keep building chapters. But again, another session was about, think about your listener, writing content that your listener wants to, what are their pain points? What are the things they're struggling with? It's nice to be inspired, but also like for me, what are travelers struggling with? Find those pain points. Or yours is about, and this that we're doing together, we're trying to help people make a podcast. What are the pain points? Sometimes it's technical. So how can we give them tools to make it easier? So those kinds of things. And I'm trying to remember, a couple of these people had websites, like one was, I think there's a podcasting school, which I think what we're doing here is really, especially since you've been doing it longer and you've got 9 podcasts. So
crazy.
How can you not learn something from this one?
Yeah, well,
And then me, I'm like literally learning as I go. So I think we got it here for that.
Nice.
Yeah. But they had all kinds of other podcasters. They had it set up on Whova, WHOVA,
okay,
which looked like a site where you could run sessions. People joined by Zoom. They had a moderator that would then move on to the next topic, and then turn the speaker back to an attendee. But literally, people just plugged in, and they could just go from one session to the next. It was pretty crazy. And then they'd set up message boards, so you could actually go and look at the other podcasters and connect with them. But as we know, there's a lot of Facebook groups for that. So if you're looking for guests, like need a guest, find a guest, put yourself up there that you'll be a guest. Those are ways to connect, to find guests, and also get on other podcasts.
Yeah, and I think
that's how I met Dave.
That's hard to do when you're like I'm in Canada, or if you're in Germany or Spain or something.
Yeah.
When you have these great live events, in a U.S. city, the time you get on a plane, you travel, your cost to go to the event, hotel, food, it becomes a pretty expensive endeavor for somebody from Australia to come to Las
Yeah,
Vegas. That's a big
it
commitment, right?
is.
So, and a lot of us are doing this on the cheap. We're trying to create
Right.
our podcasts and we're doing our best to do it all. So there's not a lot of extra money there to do events like that. So the fact that Podfest Global was available from your wherever you are, that's a smart thing. I love that. So
Yeah, I loved it too. And the fact that if you watch for it next year, we should look up and see if there's a link because I'm sure they're going to do it again next year, maybe about the same time. They had free tickets and there were plenty of events that you could log in for free and participate. They also did something like a point system. So if you visited the virtual booth for things like equipment, that we're helping to sponsor, whether those were microphones or extra gear and gadgets, you got kind of points and maybe some discounts that way too. But I didn't spend that much time on all of those. I just tried to go to some of the sessions. I thought the book idea is fabulous because I think all of us that start a podcast, we usually start it with a goal of having something we want to share
yeah,
or encourage or inspire others. And that all of that content would make a great written book. And it's nice to maybe add that to your repertoire at some point, maybe it's an ebook, maybe it's a free thing, but also just a compilation of all the great guests you may have had.
yeah. So we talk about the recording, like taking the audio and turning it into words. On my phone, I use a Google Pixel phone, but there's a thing, an app called Recorder. And all I do is I put my podcast, I hit play, or I hit record, turn the recorder on, hit record, and it's recording whatever's on my phone. I hit play on my podcast. I put my phone away, and then an hour later, I come back and it's all done. And I have a complete
Wow.
transcript of everything that's in my podcast. And then I just
Nice.
click on it, hold, click and hold, select all, copy, paste it into an email it to myself. And now wherever I am, I have a Google email account. I just then take it, put it in my Google Drive, and I have the entire contents of my episode. And then what I do is one of the things my wife and I do, we work together on my podcast, is because I do so many, I start to get a little
Yeah.
bit of podcast brain and I miss little things. So
Right.
where I might have an extra track over top of another track, which sounds horrible. So before I send it out to the world, one thing my wife likes to do is listen to my shows, make comments, make content. At this point in the
Yeah.
podcast, it was quiet for like 10 seconds. Oh, and I
Right.
forgot that. Okay. So I go and I fix that, and then it's all done. So I have somebody pre-listen to my show before it goes out. So then what I just do is I give her the transcript. And while she's listening to the show, because she likes to help me with that, then she reads my transcript at the same time and just updates a couple words here and there to make sure that
Oh,
the
nice.
pronunciation is right,
Right.
or the city name is right, or a number is a number. And she just kind of goes through and tweaks it for me. So I have really good transcript, and my audio has been listened to by a human, and then I
Right.
put it out to the world, and it's free.
Right. So that was Google. What was that one? Because a
Yeah,
lot of us have free Google accounts, and they all, you like you said, they work together. Then you have your document, you have your file, you can label it. Because that's the big part is staying organized.
right. Yeah. So for me, again, it's already pre-installed on my phone, but it's the Recorder app, and you can just
Okay.
on your Play Store or wherever you get your apps for your phones, whatever you're using. But look for a recorder that offers a transcript. And this was a free app. I didn't pay for this app. It's already on my phone. So I just hit record, I hit play on the episode, and I put my phone away. I don't even listen to it. And while I'm
Right.
doing something else, it's doing my transcript for me. Right. And then when it's done, I just
I like that.
send it to
Yeah.
my email, and I'm doing something else.
Right.
I could be outside playing with my dog, and my
Right.
transcripts are being written for me. There's a lot of tools, going back to the AI part at the beginning. There's a lot of tools out there to help you as a podcaster. You don't have to sit there and listen to your episode and play, pause, type, play, pause, type. Those days are gone,
No.
gone.
Those days are over. Right.
So find out, ask people, listen to podcasts, get tips and suggestions like you're hearing from April and put them into practice and save time. And
Yeah, save a lot of time.
put that time back into interacting with your audience. Talk to your audience and find out more about them so that you can then put that back into ChatGPT or back into your podcast.
Right.
Invest that information to make your podcast better because you spent time talking to your listener one-on-one.
Right. And listening to your listener for what their pain points are or what they want more of. Because after you've made a bunch of episodes, then it comes down to, go back and look at your stats. Which episodes are getting listened to? Was it the topic? What resonated with the listener? Because they probably want more of that, whatever that was.
Right. And then if anyone reaches out to you, whether by email, comments on social media, a like on your post, a comment on your post, a voice message through SpeakPipe, for example, on the website, that is a golden moment in time for you as a podcaster that you should never ignore. Please don't do that. To get somebody to actually hit record, type an email, leave a comment,
yes,
is earth-shattering when we're asking for engagement, right?
It really is.
Please don't.
Please don't ignore your comments, your listeners, your likes, the thumbs up. If one episode's gotten a bunch of thumbs up, because for listeners, we're all guilty of it. We go on YouTube probably every night or scroll through Instagram, and sometimes you hit something, but oftentimes you're not communicating. So the extra effort that listener took to reach out, just like your win this week, I mean, that's huge. It may have he may have been listening for months before he actually reached out and decided, okay, I'm going to reach out. And
when they find out that you're the same person on the microphone that you are in real life, I'm not that Sunday, like no, that's not me. If you met me in line at an event and came up and said hello to me, it's the same Dave that you heard in the car on the way over. It's the same guy. It's the same April.
Right.
You're the same person. You're genuine. This is who you are. This is not some fake AI thing going on. No, this is us. It's real people. Ow, that hurt. So like I pinched myself. So I'm a real person. So bring your real voice to your podcast. Be you. Because there's absolutely no other April who knows what you know and has been through what you've been through and sees the world through your eyes. No one else could copy you. No one.
Right.
No one.
No.
So
no one.
So be you, do you, and then your audience will follow. That's the best thing.
Right.
So I love it. What else, April, before we go? What else? I want to keep you too long. What else is...
No, I'm trying to think what else. We've kind of like dashed through the list. I was just looking to see what other tools I'd been playing with, because it's like every day there's like this AI stuff is kind of blowing up. But you do bring up a good point, which I'll just hit on again, is if use it as an assistant, because honestly, people are tuning in for you. So whatever your faults are, don't take those away, and don't get so married to the questions it spits out, because if you're anticipating what you're going to ask next, you're not listening to the person you're interviewing or having a conversation with. And that can be a huge fail, because your person you're having a conversation with, and hopefully even if you're doing it on the phone, but be engaged, listen to them, because oftentimes something will pop up that you're like, oh, I didn't know you rented a car and drove around all of Europe during the pandemic. That may not have come out before you chose them to be on your podcast. So now go with that, like follow that. And if you're too married to what's on the piece of paper, you're going to miss that, and your listeners are going to know it. So you don't, there's a balance. I think there's going to be a balance.
And when you're interviewing your guests, listen to your guests, engage with your guests as well. Same way you would engage with your listener, engage with your guests. Because what I really makes me sad for a guest on a podcast is when the host asks them a question, they answer this question, and that's when I fell off the cliff, and I was like, I was so close to dying, and blah 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 blah, and this big thing happened, and then the host is like, and question number 2, and you're like, Wait,
Right.
what? Go as a listener. I'm like, no.
Yes.
I
Yes.
want to know more
Right.
about the cliff. Why are you going to ask him about his favorite color? Oh, I don't know. Go back
Fail.
to the
Yes.
cliff. Go back to the
Right.
cliff.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
Oh,
Right.
so listen to your guest. And it's funny because when I have people on as for interviews, I get the question, can you send me your list of questions? And I'm like, well, I don't have one. I have a blank
Yeah.
piece of paper and I want to talk to you. And
Right.
now I know that the downside of that is some people are new to being guests and they're nervous and they'd like to have some time to prepare. I get that. That makes sense to
Mhm.
me. I don't expect everybody to be an improv genius and just pull things off the top of their head, and not know what's coming next. That's a little unnerving as a new
Yeah.
guest. I get that. I
Right.
get that. So if somebody says that to me, I just want to be prepared. Great. But then I tell them a caveat is, here's a list of things I might ask you. But when you're talking, I might ask you question one, and then we're going to go in a completely different direction because what you said is what my audience wants to hear. I'm not waiting for you to finish your answer so I can ask the next question. I want to engage with you as a guest so that
Right.
our listeners connect with you. That's it.
Right.
I want you
Right.
to sound great. I want you to
Right.
be the star of the show. It's not about
Right.
me, it's about you.
Right. Right.
Come to your guests with that, and you will have some of the best interactions with a guest ever. And your podcast will be different than everybody else's podcast.
Exactly. And the other thing I've started to do too is because I've noticed it when I look at YouTube or listen to other podcasts, if you spend too much time on the introductions, you've lost me. I came to your podcast, I came to your YouTube video to learn about using chat, using some new AI thing. Don't fill me up with why you're the expert, how many times you've used it. Just get to the meat, the bulk of it. So I've started prepping my guests essentially the same way. Like before we go on or before we start the conversation and I hit record, I tell them, we're going to basically jump into the material because that's what people came for. They want to hear about your road trip in Europe where your car broke down. And then at the end, we'll give them how to find you, how to reach out to you. I'm not going to forget that. But honestly, they came to hear about tips on planning a road trip to Europe.
Yeah. And that, yeah.
So
And
try to remember that.
I love it. And the other thing too is you can tell them, listen, we're going to jump in as if we're midway through the conversation because I'm going to do the intro later. After we're done the interview, I'm going to do your intro then. I'm going to record it after you leave because now I know what we talked about because I'm at the end. So now I know what I talked to April about because I have it written down. So when I do my intro now, I'm like, well, today April's on the podcast. We're going to talk about Podfest Global. We're going to talk about Canva, GPT, Swell AI. You want to know your role, your goal, and your parameters for your avatar. You want to know about how to turn your podcast into a book and think about your listener, the pain points and the struggles here on the How to Podcast series. Because you just did all that, right? So, right. So why do it at the beginning? Just say, okay, let's just say the intro is done. Welcome to the podcast, April. How are you? Tell me about what you think's happening in AI. Right. And for your guests, they're like, yes, let's talk about that.
Exactly.
Instead of April had a lemonade stand when she was 5. She likes to color with red crayons. Once she had an ice cream cone while on a Ferris wheel. It's like,
right, because they didn't come for that. They came to hear
about AI. Right, yeah.
I want to know about AI, or I want to know what Dave found out and how he's using it to save time. Right.
Right. That's it.
You don't want to lose them. No, you don't want to lose them. Right.
So
jump right in.
I tell everyone, create the podcast that you would listen to. If you listen to other shows and you're like, oh, I can't stand it when person does A, B, or C, then don't do A, B, or C. Right. If you don't enjoy it as a listener, then why would your listeners enjoy it from you?
Right.
So whatever's you find is a no-go on a different show, make sure it never shows up on your show. That's it. And you'll do well because you're learning. We're all learning. Everyone's learning. You can be doing this for X number of years and still be learning. You could be your first
Of
episode
course.
today. You're still learning. Everyone's learning. So there's lots of space for everyone.
Exactly. And there's a topic for everyone.
Right. Yeah. There's a lid for every pot.
I love it.
Sometimes you can't find it, but there's a lid for every pot.
Right. Exactly.
Yes. April, I love having you on. Please tell me you'll come back again and do
Yes,
this.
I love talking because I always learn something from you too.
I love having.
So now I'm going to go check out Swell.
See, Swell.ai and Canva.
Exactly.
So
2 new tools that you are actually using. So I'm going to go check them out. And I love that there's free versions to these tools because until you have clients, until you have something, do it on a budget, honestly, and experiment with the tool because then, some tools aren't for everyone.
Right. Yeah. I love it. April, as well, just to let you know, I'm starting up a Zoom room for podcasters to come on and talk to other podcasters on a regular basis. So I would love for you to be a part of that. We're just calling it the Podcaster Zoom Room.
Nice.
So if you are interested and it works with your schedule, I would love to have you on as a guest to talk to everyone as well. But I have people from around the globe that are they're putting their hand up saying, I'm looking for community for my podcast journey, and I'm looking to talk to other podcasters. So the idea is we're going to do like a topic for the day, for the meeting, take questions and answers from the group, and then go around the room and say, hey, I'm looking for a guest for this, or I want to be a guest for this. And what you did for Podfest Global, but just on a smaller scale, really intimate, and get a chance to meet each other. So if you're interested and you're available, all the links and stuff are going to be on howtopodcast.ca, but I would love to have you there as well. So you always bring great value. So I'd love to include you in that as well. So,
well, yeah, I'd love to meet other podcasters and encourage them or be a guest or have them be a guest.
So, okay, for your show, April, who are you looking for? Who do you need on your show? They're listening. Who's your ideal guest?
I would love, my ideal guest is anyone, how they're using travel. Are they camping? Are they bicycling? Are they traveling with their kids? It's kind of the gamut of travel. Are they taking, are they hiking in Canada? Are they taking a boat, a cruise, pretty much anything that's travel related right now, but just get people outside, inspire them. My audience likes kind of the budget take on it. So how are you traveling on a budget? Because I think sometimes travel gets a rap of like, oh, you got to have a lot of money and you got to have a lot of time. And it's not like that. I'm finding people that are doing things that are unique, interesting, whether it's working remotely so they can sit by the beach.
I have somebody for you. They're from Canada, and they're a digital nomad. They live in Thailand on the beach.
Wow. There you go.
They have a small little hut, and the ocean is right outside the front door.
I want to talk to them.
She's amazing. She wrote a book as well, so I'll connect you with her. So we just did that. That's it. That's what it's all about.
See? I love it.
Okay. Who would you be a good guest for on a podcast?
I'd probably be a good guest for someone that's looking to do a road trip in the United States. I spend a lot of time in New England. Maybe they want to learn how to take better pictures.
Yeah, your photography for sure.
My photography. Maybe they want to just have a little bit more social media presence. I've been doing a lot with Instagram for a while, YouTube. I've kind of dabbled in all of them and kind of figured out kind of what works best for people and their business. And again, keeping it easy. I'm all about don't overdo and try to be everywhere to everybody.
No.
But
love it. Okay, there you go. So if you're looking for a great guest, I can vouch. April is a sweetheart. She's amazing. Brings content galore, and probably one of the highlights in my calendar whenever I see that pop up. So April, thank you for making time for us, all of us listening.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And I can't wait to have you back on and celebrate your next win, because I know there's another one come around your corner for you. And you're always welcome to come back. Please come back.
Yes. And I look forward to your new Zoom room with the other podcasters. I think that'll be fun.
Yeah, I love it. Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much, April.
All right. Take care, Dave.
Cheers.